You know, most people walk around thinking that one day something out there is going to shift, and that's when their life will finally begin. They say things like, once I get that promotion, I'll be happy. Once I have more money, I'll finally be confident. Once people start respecting me, then I'll start respecting myself. But here's the truth. The real reason your life isn't changing isn't because your circumstances haven't shifted. It's because you haven't decided to shift. Change doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you decide that enough is enough. I want you to really feel that. Think of a time in your life when something finally changed, not when you wished for change, not when you hoped for it, but when you finally said, I'm done. I'm not living like this anymore. That moment, that decision was a spark that changed everything. People wait for the world to give them permission to grow. But the world isn't holding you back. Your indecision is. You can't stand at the edge of your dream waiting for perfect timing. There is no perfect timing. There's just now. The moment you truly decide with every cell of your being that your life will be different, your brain starts to fire differently, your emotions align, your body moves differently, your focus sharpens, you begin to attract new energy, new people, new ideas, because your identity starts to shift. See, a real decision isn't a wish. A wish is something you hope will happen if the universe is in a good mood. A decision is when you cut off every other possibility except the one you've chosen. That word decide actually comes from the Latin word decider. It means to cut off. When you decide, you literally cut off every other option. You burn the boats. You tell yourself, there is no way back. I'm going to make this happen or die trying. That's the difference between people who dream and people who do. Dreamers want change. Doers decide on it. Think of someone like Oprah Winfrey. She didn't wait for the right background, the right parents, or the right resources. She made a decision to become more than what her circumstances told her she could be. Or take Nelson Mandela, 27 years in a prison cell, but he made a decision that no matter what was taken from him, his vision, his integrity, and his purpose would not be taken. That's power, that's decision. Every transformation in your life begins with one clear, unwavering decision, not 10. Not 100, just one, the decision to commit to something bigger than your fears. The decision to say, I will not settle for less than I can be, do, or give. And you know what most people do? They make decisions like they're shopping for clothes. They pick one, try it on, and if it's uncomfortable, they put it back. But winners, leaders, they make decisions and then they make them right. They stay in the fight. They learn, adjust, grow, adapt, because they understand that change never happens without commitment. Let me tell you something straight, sir. The reason most lives stay the same is because people confuse desire with decision. Desire is emotional. It feels good for a moment. Decision is absolute. It's the point of no return. It's when you say, I don't care what it takes. I'll find a way or make one. And when you truly decide, you don't need motivation. You create it. You don't need the perfect plan. You take one step, then another, and momentum builds. And here's the miracle: when you move with certainty, life starts to rearrange itself around your movement. People appear. Opportunities arise. Doors that were closed start to open, not because luck suddenly smiled at you, but because your energy became unshakable. The truth is, most people's lives are a reflection of their indecision. They live in the maybe. Maybe I'll start that business. Maybe I'll get in shape. Maybe I'll fix that relationship. But maybe is the language of paralysis. Maybe kills dreams. The language of transformation is I will. So let me ask you something. What's an area of your life where you've been waiting for the right conditions? Be honest. Maybe it's your career, your health, your relationship, your sense of purpose. What if today you stopped waiting for the perfect moment and made the moment perfect by deciding? Because when you decide, you take your power back. You can't control the economy. You can't control the weather. You can't control how people treat you. But you can control one thing: your decisions. That's the lever that moves your entire life. Change doesn't ask for permission. It responds to direction. The direction you set with a single decision. This is who I am now. This is how I live now. This is what I stand for. And from that point forward, you stop chasing change because you become it. So stop negotiating with your dreams. Stop telling your soul to wait until next month, next year, next opportunity. Decide that right now is your time. Decide that you are done being defined by your past. Decide that your future deserves action, not hesitation. Because life doesn't change when it gets easier. Life changes when you get stronger. When you make the decision that your destiny is worth fighting for. That's when everything around you starts to transform. So don't wait for the world to shift. Be the shift. Decide who you are. Decide what you stand for. Decide that nothing, no fear, no failure, no excuse. will stop you from creating the life you were born to live. That's where change begins, not out there, but in here. You want to know what truly shapes your life. It's not luck, not talent, not even opportunity. It's your standards, the invisible rules you've set for yourself about what you will and won't accept. See, every result in your life, your income, your body, your relationships, your emotions is a reflection of your standards, not your goals, not your dreams, your standards. We all get what we tolerate. Think about that for a second. If you tolerate being tired all the time, you'll stay tired. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll keep getting it. If you tolerate mediocrity from yourself, your life will always stay average. But the exact second you raise your standards, life begins to rise to meet them. People always say, I want to lose weight, or I want to make more money, or I want to be happier. But here's the truth, sir. Wanting doesn't change anything. Expecting does. When something becomes a must instead of a should, everything changes. When you decide, I must be healthy, I must give my best every day, I must live with passion, your mind, body, and spirit begin to align to that new standard. Your brain is wired to stay consistent with who you believe you are. So if your standard is, I'm always late, guess what? You'll stay late. If your standard is, I always find a way, life will challenge you, but you'll rise because your identity and your standards are inseparable. Let me give you an example. Look at someone like Michael Jordan. His standard wasn't to win games. His standard was to dominate every second of the game. He didn't settle for good. He demanded excellence from himself and everyone around him. That's why when others were practicing 2 hours, he was practicing 6. He raised the standard for what greatness looked like, not just for himself, but for an entire generation. Or take someone like Elon Musk. His standard isn't just to build cars, it's to redefine transportation for humanity. He doesn't say, what's realistic? He asks, what's required? That's what high standards do. They make you step into a bigger vision of yourself. Now, some people say, but Tony, I've tried to raise my standards before and it didn't stick. You know why? Because they treat it like a goal instead of a must. Goals are temporary, standards are permanent. When you raise your standards, you don't try, you become. If you've ever known someone who quit smoking after years of trying, what change wasn't their plan? It was their standard. One day they said, I'm done. I'm not that kind of person anymore. That's identity. That's power. See, sir, standards act like a thermostat for your life. You can set the temperature at 70 degrees. Maybe that's your comfort zone. But if life suddenly heats up, maybe you get lucky, make more money, have some success. If your internal standard is still 70, you'll find a way to cool things down. You'll sabotage it without even knowing why. The same happens the other way. If life drops to 40 degrees and your standard is 70, you'll find a way to fight back, to push harder, to climb again. Because your standards are your internal temperature. They determine how far you rise and how low you'll fall. So here's the question, what have you been tolerating in your life? Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's a lack of self-discipline. Maybe it's fear. What would happen if you decided today, right now, that you would no longer tolerate that behavior? That it doesn't match who you are anymore. Because here's the truth, when you raise your standards, the universe starts removing what doesn't belong. The wrong people drift away. The wrong habits die off. The wrong opportunities fade, and the right ones start to show up, not by magic, but by alignment. And you don't raise your standards once, you keep raising them. Because life expands in proportion to the demands you place upon yourself. You can't grow in comfort. Comfort kills potential. But when you raise the bar, you awaken a power inside you that's been sleeping for years. Let me ask you something, sir. When was the last time you demanded more from yourself than anyone expected of you? When was the last time you said, I will not stop until I give my absolute best? Because that's where champions are made. In the moments when no one's watching, when it's uncomfortable, when the easy choice is to quit, you've got to decide that average is not your destiny. You've got to decide that good enough is not good enough for you anymore. The great ones, the fulfilled ones, they have standards that others call unrealistic. But that's why they're great. They don't live by what's possible. They live by what's required to fulfill their vision. So if you want your life to change, don't change your goals, change your standards. Don't ask, what do I want? Ask, what will I no longer tolerate? And what will I absolutely demand from myself starting now? And once you do, you'll start to notice something magical. The moment you raise your standards, you attract better results, better people, better energy. Why? Because your energy changes first. Your actions follow. And results always follow action. The secret is simple, sir. When you raise your standards, you raise your life. Not by luck, not by chance, but by decision. So from this moment, decide what your new standard is. Decide that you'll lead instead of follow. Decide that you'll give more, love more, grow more, become more. Because your standards are your destiny. You don't get what you want, you get what you're willing to demand from yourself every single day. That's how you change your life. One raised standard at a time. Pain. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to feel it. But here's the truth. Pain is life's greatest teacher. It's not your enemy, it's your wake-up call. Everybody wants happiness. Everybody wants growth, but they forget growth never comes without pain. Pain is not punishment, pain is information, it's feedback. It's the universe saying, you've been living below your potential, it's time to rise. And most people spend their entire lives running from pain. They numb it with food, with distractions, with social media, with excuses. But what they don't realize is this: what you run from controls you. What you face frees you. Every breakthrough you've ever had in your life came after a moment of pain. Think about it. The heartbreak that made you finally value love. The failure that made you finally find your purpose. The rejection that forced you to believe in yourself. Pain strips away illusions. It destroys the lies you've been telling yourself. And when everything falls apart, that's when you finally see what's real. I remember saying this on stage once. If you're in pain, congratulations. Life is trying to teach you something. Pain means there's something worth fighting for. It means there's still fire in you. Because the opposite of pain isn't happiness. It's numbness. It's when you stop feeling anything at all. That's when you've given up. Here's what separates those who stay stuck from those who rise. The people who grow don't see pain as something to escape. They see it as something to study. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is this moment demanding from me? Because pain reveals your weaknesses, but it also reveals your strength. Sir, you can't build muscle without resistance. You can't build character without struggle. You can't build courage without fear. Every difficulty you faced was preparing you for something greater. It wasn't breaking you. It was building you. People say, Tony, I want to be stronger. And I say, then be ready for something to challenge you. Because strength is forged in adversity. Think about a diamond. It's just carbon ordinary until it's put under extreme pressure. That same pressure creates beauty, clarity, and value. You're no different. But here's the secret. Pain will only transform you if you decide to learn from it. Otherwise, it just becomes suffering. Suffering is when you experience pain without purpose. But when you attach a meaning, when you say, this is not happening to me, it's happening for me, suddenly everything changes. You go from victim to student, from powerless to powerful. Every time I've met someone extraordinary, someone who's truly alive, not just successful, but fulfilled, I've found one thing in common: they've suffered deeply. But they use that suffering as fuel. They turn their pain into purpose. Look at people like Nelson Mandela, who turned 27 years of imprisonment into a message of freedom and forgiveness. Or Malala Yousafzai, who took a bullet meant to silence her and turned it into a global voice for education. Their pain became their mission. Sir, most people ask, why me? But leaders ask, what for? What is this pain preparing me for? What is this season trying to show me about who I really am? Because let me tell you something powerful. You don't discover your true strength when everything's going right. You discover it when everything's fallen apart and you still choose to stand tall. You discover who you are when you've cried, when you've failed, when you've been betrayed, and yet you decide, this is not where my story ends. Pain shapes your perspective. It makes you more empathetic. It makes you humble. It makes you human. You start to understand others, not through judgment, but through compassion, because you've been there. You've felt it. You've survived it. And once you've gone through enough pain, sir, you realize something incredible. The thing you thought would destroy you actually refined you. The heartbreak didn't ruin you. It opened your heart. The failure didn't define you, it directed you. The loss didn't end you, it awakened you. If you use pain properly, it becomes your compass. It shows you where you need to grow. It points toward the areas that need healing, discipline, forgiveness, or change. Pain is never random. It's precise. It knows exactly where you've been hiding from yourself. So don't numb it. Don't bury it. Sit with it. Learn from it. Let it stretch you. Let it teach you. Because when you stop running from pain, pain turns into power. There's a quote I love. The wound is where the light enters you. That's not just poetry, that's truth. Because pain cracks open the walls around your heart, and in that space, light enters. Growth enters. God enters. So the next time life hurts, when it feels like you're being torn apart, remember this, it's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. The discomfort is the doorway to your next level. And most people never walk through it because they think pain is permanent. But it's not. Pain is temporary. Growth is forever. You can't avoid pain in life, but you can choose your pain. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One weighs ounces, the other weighs tons. So ask yourself, sir, what pain are you avoiding right now that's actually the key to your next level? Is it the pain of hard work, the pain of change, the pain of honesty? Face it, embrace it. Because the faster you face it, the faster you grow. Remember this always, life's greatest gifts come wrapped in pain. You just have to unwrap them. So don't curse your pain. Thank it, because it's not there to punish you, it's there to prepare you. And when you finally learn to see pain not as your enemy, but as your greatest teacher, that's when your life truly begins to transform.